Welcome to a Battles bonus episode from the TrackPads podcast. TrackPads is your go-to destination for exploring the rich history, strategies, and leadership lessons of warfare. I'm your host, Dr. Jason Edwards, U.S. Army retired. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast and sign up for the weekly newsletter. You can also explore my published books by visiting my authors page at trackpads.com. The Battle of Khe Sanh, a siege in the Highlands. Envision a U.S. Marine stationed in a trench carved into the red clay plateau of Khe Sanh, South Vietnam, surrounded by steep hills, cloaked in dense jungle, and shrouded in persistent fog that reduced visibility to mere yards. For 77 days in 1968, artillery shells and rockets rained down without interruption, while a North Vietnamese force, estimated at 20,000 to 40,000 troops, outnumbering the defenders 5-1, maintained a relentless encirclement of the isolated combat base. This was the Battle of Khe Sanh, a pivotal engagement of the Vietnam War, fought in the rugged terrain of Quang Tri Province, testing American endurance against formidable odds. Historians continue to debate its intent. Was it an NVA attempt to seize a critical outpost, a diversion for a broader offensive, or a deliberate challenge to U.S. resolve? Approximately 6,000 American troops, primarily from the 26th Marine Regiment, faced continuous pressure under harsh conditions that amplified the battle's intensity and danger. Its significance remains contested. Some view it as a tactical victory for the defenders who held their ground, while others see it as a strategic enigma with far-reaching implications for the war's trajectory. The clash unfolded amid monsoon rains and thick mists, conditions that grounded aircraft and isolated the base, heightening the stakes for those within its barbed wire perimeter. This account will explore Khe Sanh's historical context, its grueling progression over weeks of combat, and the complex legacy it left behind. The battle's prominence in military history stems from both its ferocity and its ambiguity, offering a window into the Vietnam War's most enduring questions. Why did the NVA commit such forces to this remote outpost, and what did the U.S. hope to achieve by defending it at such cost? By examining these layers, we'll uncover the reasons Khe Sanh remains a subject of study and reflection decades later. Its story is one of resilience, sacrifice, and the elusive nature of victory in a conflict marked by uncertainty. Historical context. The Battle of Khe Sanh occurred during the Vietnam War, a conflict that had escalated significantly by 1968 after years of deepening U.S. involvement. Since 1965, the United States had deployed troops to South Vietnam to prevent the Communist North Vietnamese Army and its Viet Cong allies from toppling the Saigon government. A mission driven by Cold War fears of domino-effect communism. By early 1968, over 536,000 American personnel were stationed in-country, yet the war remained locked in a stalemate, with monthly casualties averaging over 1,100. Anti-war protests surged back home, fueled by nightly news broadcasts showing the conflict's toll, challenging President Lyndon B. Johnson's claims of impending progress. Khe Sanh Combat Base sat in Quang Tri Province, 10 miles south of the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ, and 6 miles from Laos, overlooking the Ho Chi Minh Trail, a sprawling network of dirt paths, river fords, and hidden supply caches stretching from North Vietnam into the south. Established in 1962 by U.S. Special Forces to monitor guerrilla activity, it was expanded in 1966 into a full combat base garrisoned by the 26th Marine Regiment, including its 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Battalions. Reinforced by the 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, and Army Artillery from the 1st Battalion, 13th Marines, Khe Sanh housed about 6,000 troops by 1968. General William Westmoreland, head of U.S. Military Assistance Command Vietnam, saw it as a vital outpost to disrupt NVA logistics and protect the I Corps region, the northernmost military zone, against enemy incursions. In late 1967, U.S. intelligence gathered from SR-71 Blackbird overflights, radio intercepts, and defector reports detected a massive NVA buildup around Khe Sanh, signaling an imminent threat. The 325th, 304th, and 320th Divisions, totaling 20,000 to 40,000 troops, were assembling equipped with Soviet-supplied 130mm guns, 122mm rockets, and anti-aircraft batteries. Westmoreland interpreted this as preparations for a siege modeled on Dien Bien Phu, Giap's 1954 triumph over France, intended to overrun the base and deliver a devastating blow to American morale and credibility. The NVA's commander, General Vo Nguyen Giap, a strategic mastermind, aimed to exploit the war's growing unpopularity in the U.S. with a high-stakes operation. Alternative theories emerged among U.S. analysts, suggesting Khe Sanh might be a diversion for a larger plan. Speculation confirmed when the Tet Offensive erupted on January 30, 1968, targeting over 100 South Vietnamese cities and bases. The base's defenders faced a daunting challenge, isolated by rugged terrain, cut off from reliable ground supply via Route 9 due to NVA ambushes, and battered by monsoon rains averaging 10 inches monthly, frequent fog-grounded aircraft, forcing reliance on perilous airdrops and landings under fire, a vulnerability the NVA sought to exploit. Khe Sanh's strategic value and the looming enemy presence set the stage for a confrontation that would test American military resolve and shape perceptions of the war. The 6,000 defenders, Marines, Army, artillerymen, and a small contingent of Air Force personnel prepared for a fight against a foe entrenched in the surrounding hills, including Hill 881 South and Hill 861. These positions offered the NVA natural cover and vantage points for artillery, amplifying their threat to the base's small airstrip and fortified perimeter. Westmoreland reinforced Khe Sanh with additional supplies and manpower in late 1967, anticipating a prolonged engagement with high stakes. The buildup underscored the clash's significance, a remote outpost poised to become either a symbol of American tenacity or a costly miscalculation. The battle itself. The Battle of Khe Sanh unfolded on a rugged plateau in Quang Tri Province near the Khe Sanh village at 1,500 feet above sea level, surrounded by steep, jungle-covered hills. Hill 881 South, Hill 881 North, Hill 861, and Hill 558 loomed over the base, their slopes shrouded in triple canopy jungle and often cloaked in fog or monsoon rains averaging 10 inches monthly. The base featured a 1,900-foot airstrip of crushed rock vital for resupply, encircled by bunkers, sandbags, and barbed wire, manned by roughly 6,000 troops from the 26th Marine Regiment and supporting units. Route 9, the only ground link, was frequently severed by NVA ambushes, isolating the defenders amid harsh terrain. The siege began at 05:30 on January 21, 1968, when NVA artillery, 122mm rockets, 130mm guns, and 82mm mortars from Hill 881 North and beyond unleashed a ferocious barrage on the base. The opening salvo struck an ammunition dump near the airstrip, detonating 1,500 tons of shells and grenades in a massive explosion that killed 18 Marines and wounded 40 on the first day. Fuel drums ignited, sending plumes of black smoke across the plateau, while that night, NVA infantry from the 66th Regiment, 304th Division, probed the western perimeter near Alpha Company's lines, repelled after a 2-hour firefight with 5 American and 50 NVA casualties. On January 29, the NVA launched a major assault on Hill 861, a Marine outpost 2.5 miles northwest, held by Kilo Company 26th Marines, overlooking the base's northern approaches. At 0300 hours, about 300 troops from the 95th Regiment, 325th Division, attacked under darkness and a heavy mortar barrage, aiming to seize the hill's observation post, critical for spotting artillery. The defenders countered with machine guns, claymore mines, and 105mm howitzer fire from the main base, driving the NVA back by 0900, with 10 Marines and an estimated 100 NVA dead. The hill remained contested, with NVA snipers and mortars disrupting Marine patrols in subsequent days, hindering resupply efforts. The Tet Offensive erupted on January 30, hitting over 100 South Vietnamese targets. Yet Khe Sanh's siege intensified, suggesting a coordinated NVA strategy. On February 5, the NVA struck Lang Vei Special Forces Camp, 7 miles southwest, with 1,000 troops from the 198th Tank Battalion and 101st Regiment, 325th Division, tanks, a rare armored assault. At 0100 hours, they overran the camp's 500 defenders, 24 U.S. Green Berets, and Montagnard irregulars, killing 10 Americans and capturing most survivors after hours of fighting. This severed a key Allied position, tightening the noose around Khe Sanh and shifting NVA artillery focus to the main base. The siege's hallmark was its relentless bombardment, peaking in mid-February with up to 1,300 rounds daily from Hill 881 South, mortars from Hill 861, and long-range guns from Laos. Marines hunkered in steel-reinforced bunkers, emerging to repair defenses or man posts amid a scarred landscape of craters and uprooted trees, their morale tested by constant shelling. By February 15, over 25,000 rounds had fallen, wounding 200 defenders and overwhelming medics in bunkers filled with the injured. The airstrip, a lifeline, became a death trap. On February 10, a C-130 Hercules carrying 20 tons of supplies exploded under mortar fire, killing 6 crewmen and destroying its load. Operation Niagara, launched January 22, countered with U.S. airpower B-52 Stratofortresses, F-4 Phantoms, and A-4 Skyhawks from carriers like USS Enterprise, flying 24,000 sorties, over 110,000 tons of bombs, high-explosive napalm and cluster munitions, targeted NVA positions pinpointed by low-band radar and seismic sensors dropped across the hills. On February 17, a B-52 strike demolished an NVA staging area near Hill 881 North, killing 200 troops and a 122mm battery, though the enemy adapted with deeper tunnels. CH-46 helicopters airdropped 12,000 tons of food, ammo, and water, braving anti-aircraft fire that downed 10 aircraft by mid-March. The siege peaked on February 25th with an NVA assault on the southeastern perimeter near the 37th ARVN Ranger Battalion sector, a critical defensive line. At 0430 hours, 600 infantry from the 304th Division, backed by sappers and 120mm mortars, reached the wire with Bangalore torpedoes, killing 8 ARVN troops in the initial barrage. Marines from Bravo Company 26 Marines and ARVN Rangers fought back with M16s, M60s, and 81mm mortars, while F4s dropped napalm within 100 yards of friendly lines, halting the attack by 0800. Losses totaled 15 defenders and 150 NVA, marking the enemy's boldest push, stopped by tight coordination and air support. March turned to attrition as NVA trenches advanced to within 50 yards of Marine lines, dug into muddy slopes under ceaseless rain that flooded bunkers. Nightly clashes flared grenades, RPGs, and small arms, killing dozens weekly, with snipers on Hill 558 pinning down patrols and eroding morale. On March 6th, a recon team from Hill 81 South ambushed an NVA platoon from the 320th Division, seizing maps suggesting a planned offensive, possibly thwarted by a B-52 strike that day, killing 150 troops. Shelling dropped to 200 rounds daily by late March, and aerial photos showed NVA units retreating westward, their logistics battered by air interdiction. Operation Pegasus began April 1st with the 1st Cavalry Division, 20,000 strong, including 3rd Marine Regiment support. Advancing from Khe Lu along Route 9, they faced NVA ambushes with 75mm recoilless rifles and small arms, clearing 15 miles of road over a week amid sporadic fighting that killed 50 Americans and hundreds of NVA. The link-up with Khe Sanh on April 8th lifted the siege, greeted by weary Marines emerging from bunkers. Sporadic clashes continued into July as NVA remnants retreated into Laos, ending the 77-day ordeal. The defense relied on Marine tenacity, 6,000 troops holding against 20,000 to 40,000, bolstered by air power that turned the tide. The NVA's persistence, leveraging terrain and numbers, exacted a steep toll, with daily life reduced to bunkers, shell craters, and the roar of jets overhead. Khe Sanh's isolation amplified the challenge. Route 9's closure and fog-bound airstrip left airdrops as the sole lifeline, a feat of logistics under fire. The battle's intensity, 77 days of bombardment and assaults, tested every defender, leaving a legacy of endurance amid chaos. Outcome and impact. The Battle of Khe Sanh concluded with the U.S. retaining control of the base, a testament to the defenders' resolve against a relentless NVA siege. Official tallies report 205 Marines killed and 1,668 wounded over 77 days, a heavy toll for the 6,000-strong garrison under constant fire. NVA losses were estimated at 10 to 15,000, largely from airstrikes, though exact figures remained unconfirmed due to enemy concealment and retreat into Laos. The base itself was left scarred. Its airstrip pockmarked, bunkers collapsed, and supplies nearly exhausted, despite 12,000 tons airdropped. Operation Pegasus, completed by April 8, 1968, broke the encirclement as the 1st Cavalry Division linked up with Khe Sanh, driving off remaining NVA forces. The enemy withdrew by mid-April, abandoning wrecked artillery and trench lines in the hills, their offensive momentum spent. However, the victory was short-lived. In July, General Cretan Abrams ordered the base abandoned, its structures dismantled and troops redeployed. This decision stunned many Marines, who felt their 77-day stand had been rendered meaningless, sparking debates over the battle's cost versus gain. The siege drained U.S. resources. 24,000 air sorties and 110,000 tons of bombs were diverted from Tet's urban battles, stretching air assets thin during a critical period. For the NVA, failing to overrun Khe Sanh was a tactical defeat, yet their ability to pin down 6,000 American troops may have bolstered Tet's broader disruption across South Vietnam. The battle's demands, sustained air support, constant resupply, highlighted the logistical strain of defending isolated outposts against a determined foe. It also exposed vulnerabilities, as the loss of aircraft and personnel underscored the high price of maintaining Khe Sanh's lifeline. Public perception shifted as images of the siege, Marines in bunkers, C-130s exploding, aired alongside Tet's chaos on American television screens. Anti-war sentiment surged, with protests intensifying in cities like Chicago and Washington, D.C., reflecting a nation weary of Vietnam's toll. In March 1968, President Johnson, facing approval ratings below 40%, announced he would not seek re-election, a decision tied to the war's escalating political cost. Khe Sanh became a potent symbol of Vietnam's grinding stalemate, a battle won on the ground but lost in the broader narrative. The immediate aftermath saw Khe Sanh's abandonment reshape U.S. strategy, moving away from static bases toward more mobile operations. The NVA's retreat allowed a temporary lull in Quang Tri Province, though their presence persisted in Laos, ready to strike again. For the Marines, the battle was a point of pride, holding against odds yet tinged with frustration at its ultimate futility. Khe Sanh's outcome underscored the war's complexity, a tactical success overshadowed by strategic and political repercussions. Legacy and analysis. Khe Sanh's legacy blends tactical achievement with strategic uncertainty, a duality that defines its place in military history. Westmoreland declared it a victory, citing the defense's disruption of NVA plans near the DMZ and the heavy toll inflicted by 110,000 tons of bombs, equivalent to 5 Hiroshima blasts. Yet many historians argue it was a diversion, tying down 6,000 U.S. troops, while Tet's urban assaults eroded American credibility across South. Critics label it Westmoreland's Dien Bien Phu obsession, a misstep that squandered resources in a war demanding adaptability over fixed positions. Militarily, Khe Sanh showcased air-ground synergy. B-52s bombed every 90 minutes, guided by radar, while helicopters delivered 600 tons of supplies weekly under fire, a logistical feat studied at academies like West Point. It pioneered saturation bombing, influencing tactics in Vietnam and later conflicts like the 1991 Gulf War, where precision evolved from Khe Sanh's blunt force. However, it exposed weaknesses, dependence on vulnerable air resupply, the fragility of static defenses against mobile foes, lessons that shaped U.S. doctrine for decades. The battle's intensity, 77 days of shelling and assaults, highlighted the limits of technology against a determined enemy entrenched in rugged terrain. In Vietnam's trajectory, Khe Sanh and Tet marked a turning point, with polls by mid-1968 showing 60% of Americans opposing the war, a shift that hastened Vietnamization, handing combat to South Vietnamese forces. The base's abandonment in July 1968 signaled a retreat from such outposts, reflecting a strategic pivot as U.S. goals blurred amid rising costs, 16,592 deaths in 1968 alone. Its site, now a museum in Vietnam, stands as a relic of a war where immense effort often yielded ambiguous results. Khe Sanh's legacy thus lies in its paradox, a fierce stand that won the battle but lost ground in the war's larger fight. Today, Khe Sanh informs debates on modern warfare, mirroring U.S. experiences in Afghanistan, remote bases, air reliance, and elusive insurgents offering timeless insights. Was it a necessary defense or a costly error? It remains a triumph of marine grit, repelling vastly superior numbers, yet a strategic puzzle in Vietnam's unraveling, a case study in resilience and miscalculation. Understanding Khe Sanh equips us to grapple with war's complexities, from tactical execution to its political ripples, a story etched in both history books and the memories of those who endured it. Conclusion: the Battle of Khe Sanh was a 77-day crucible where U.S. Marines withstood an NVA siege through extraordinary resilience and decisive air power. Yet its strategic purpose remains unresolved over 5 decades later. Colonel David Lones, the base commander, later reflected, "We held our ground against relentless pressure, but the enemy dictated the engagement's rhythm and forced us to react." It stands as a testament to the courage of the 6,000 defenders, Marines, Army artillerymen, and ARVN allies, who faced bombardment and assaults in a landscape of mud, craters, and shattered jungle. Khe Sanh encapsulates the Vietnam War's broader paradoxes: intense sacrifice for uncertain gains, a microcosm of a conflict that defied clear victory. This history matters because it reveals the challenges of unconventional warfare, where tactical wins can mask strategic failures, offering critical lessons for military planners and citizens alike. Its echoes in modern conflicts, like Afghanistan's isolated outposts, underscore the limits of firepower and the weight of public support, shaping how we approach prolonged engagements. Khe Sanh's story, preserved in veterans' accounts in the quiet fields where it stood, teaches us the human cost of war and the need to align strategy with achievable ends. Knowing this ensures we honor the past while preparing for future decisions, bridging the gap between battlefield valor and the broader consequences of conflict. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the TrackPass podcast. Don't forget to check out the TrackPass online newsletter, where we take things to the next level with multimedia content. Each issue features fascinating and informative photos, videos, and articles that bring the stories of military life to you in a dynamic and engaging way. Be sure to subscribe at trackpass.com to stay informed and entertained. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the incredible world of military history and life.